day. Thank you, John.
Thanks, Paul. Look, I mean, first of all, I'd like to just thank Commonwealth Bank and AgFood and PAC Partners for actually putting on some of this thing, because the opportunities in agriculture are real. They're things that we've been involved with for many, many years. And the Australian community is really invested in ag right away. So when we came here last year, we looked at what was presented by other people, and we looked at how it was actually an information session, really, for all of the business community to be invested in ag. And it's something that I've always wondered all through my life. I come from a very small town near Hargraves, which is near Mudgee, and there was so much of the concrete jungle didn't understand what agriculture was all about. I've been involved in it all my life, nearly 40 years in it now. And, I want to tell you a story about AWN. It's a very different story. We aren't Elders, we aren't Nutrient, we're somebody else. So who is AWN? We're a private wool agency, livestock agency. We started over 24 years ago. We started as a progression trying to change the industry, the wool industry, and how it came about was I wanted to link wool growers and processors together. If you talk to a wool grower, he wanted to talk about guarantee of price. If you talk to a processor, he wanted to talk about guarantee of quality and guarantee of supply. 24 years ago, we started that with all of the world's leading fashion houses based out of Italy. So the likes of Hugo Boss, the Mazzotto Group, Loro Piana, Ermenegildo Zegna, we're all partners, all put together in a common vision of trying to link everybody together. The Australian farmer is a very different beast. And, when we came out and we actually told everybody that that's what we wanted to do, they all said, that's fantastic innovation. We can't wait to do that. When's the next auction? And, the reality of that is that Australian agriculture is very slow to move. You can put all of the innovation in that you like, but you're still dealing with an average Australian wool grower, if I talk about wool specific, at 64 years of age. And they're very slow to innovate. Over the time, our scale and our expansion, we've made over 20 acquisitions in the wool industry, and we've made a lot recently, which I'll get into later in the livestock side. We employ about 200 full-time employees, and we serve in excess of about 9,000 farms across Australia. Our focus is to continue to grow, both organically and inorganically, with an extreme focus on sensible allocation of capital and innovation. Over the next few slides, I want to focus on the three pillars of our growth and where we've come from and where we're going. We are an industry leader in the wool industry. We sell over 20% of Australia's wool clip, and we are one of the few people that sell probably about 25% of our wool by contract to people all around the world, be it either in China or be it in Italy. We hold board seats at all major industry groups, including the Australian Wool Testing Authority, the Wool Exchange, the National Council of Wool Selling Brokers, and we also, for the last 6 years, I've sat on the Australia-China Joint Working Group. And that was probably one of the most interesting things as we went through all of our problems with China, where we sat down and we sat on Zoom calls through COVID, and the very first thing that the question was asked was, has there been any change in what Beijing has said regarding the wool industry? And the answer was no, and then we kept moving. We've been very heavily protected in that. It's been very, very interesting. It's because we are the largest supplier of apparel wool. They can't source it anywhere else. AWN as a business operates across three pillars of wool, livestock and real estate. We have an experienced board and management. We've got a competitive edge in some of our established platforms. We have expertise in mergers and acquisitions. We're diversified. We've got a strong financial growth, and it's based across organic and inorganic pipelines that we have in play. A very quick story, and not to bore everybody. We started in 1999 from a pencil, and it was when I wrote that plan and put it together in front of the Italian wool processors and said, I want to link everything together, they jumped at it and we put this together in literally less than 3 weeks. It was a great opportunity and people got on board. So we started in 1999. We diversified in 2002 from just being a small regional based operation here in New South Wales to eventually become a national company. We evolved through the pipeline over the last 23 years by acquisition and attracting good talent. We were a wool specialist for the majority of our life. In 2007-8 came along, and I don't have to tell most people in this room what happened. And out of our shareholders based out of Italy, of the 13 that we had put together, 9 of them went to the wall, including the oldest wool manufacturer and processor in the world, Carlo Barbera. It was a shock to everyone, and we became what was called a strategic alliance, not a core business. At that time, the ownership of AWN changed, and Brendan Lunny, who's in the room with me, and I formed a partnership, and we bought the business from the Italians. We diversified it. We went into manufacturing, we went into retail. We had our own manufacturing plants down in Melbourne. We had retail outlets throughout Australia, based out of the airports. And that was a good diversification strategy for us at the time. We also went into wool trading, and we grew the business substantially. In 2019, which is only now 4 years ago, we took another decision to diversify very heavily into livestock. Why? Because the wool supply was dwindling Australia-wide. It was a natural progression for us to get into livestock. Because of consolidation in the industry, we were given an opportunity to actually expand very heavily in that livestock business, and we now sit employing over 100 people in that side of the business, with 8 acquisitions over the last 4 years. That side of our business has grown substantially, and now the income streams are basically 50-50 between wool and livestock. Our latest evolution was to take us away from being Australian Wool Network, which was our original name, back into AWN. Why? Because people couldn't basically see that Australian Wool Network was a good thing for livestock. We had to take the wool out of our name. So we've evolved. We are a rural service agency business focused on outputs. We do not focus on inputs at all. Some brief numbers, and they're very, very brief. We are a private company. So we've grown substantially. Our revenue last year, about $90 million in 2022, will be higher this year. Our gross profit, the margin, around about 36 million with an EBITDA of about 11, much higher this year. Our asset position is good. Our return on capital is extremely high because we do not carry inventory. Our focus is on return on capital. Last year at 52%. Again, this year probably slightly lower because of livestock markets, which are obviously a little bit depressed. But we're very focused on the financial side. We're very focused on return on capital. We like low debt and high returns. The company, foundations for sustainable future growth. What do we invest in? We invest in future leaders. We have over 35 people, more than 10% of our people under the age of 30. We put a lot of time and effort into them. They are part of a formal future leaders program that we have, that we train them across all parts of the industry, whether it be wool, whether it be livestock, whether it be financial. The whole thing, we put an enormous amount of time into our young people. Our strategy is to continue to grow. We want to expand our livestock division. We think that there's more room in wool. We think that we are in a prime position to attract the best talent. Our organic growth has been double-digit for the last 2 or 3 years. It's been fantastic. We've strengthened our board. We appointed Sue McCluskey to the board late last year. And Sue was the special representative for Australian Agriculture, I'm sure known to quite a lot of people here. And we restructured our board with Brendan stepping down and John Maher taking over as chair. Why John? John had a long executive role with Rural Co, extremely well connected, and John and I have known each other for over 30 years, so have a great working relationship. We have an inorganic growth strategy. in all three sectors, in wool, livestock and real estate. Strong track record of attracting and identifying the talent that we need, and we have a knack of being able to identify the right people. If you surround yourself with people that are better than you, and you surround yourself with people who know what they're doing, you will go forward. Diversified revenue stream. Obviously, as I've mentioned quite a time, we've been in wool for 24 years. Obviously, we can fill in the gaps very heavily there. There is no wool in the Northern Territory. Our livestock is growing substantially. We're in New South Wales, Victoria, Tasmania and Western Australia, and we will continue to grow in these areas. We've been doing that for 4 years. Real estate, not so long, 2 years, operating in 3 states. Again, it will grow over the next 12 months. So what we do, who we are, we're a wool broker, we're a wool trader, and we use these words, innovation with impact. What do we do differently to somebody else? Why have we got 9,000 farmers in wool? Why have we got these people that are wanting to come to us? We have a 10.1% stake in New Zealand Merino. New Zealanders are great people. They're geographically isolated. They can't produce any quantity of anything, and what they are great marketers. They are the world's leaders when it comes to the ethical production of wool. They have managed to actually produce on the back of something similar to what we've done. They have 96 brand partners that now have the request to have all of their wool sustainably produced. We've been part of this, and we've been doing this for over 24 years. So when I take part in a debate about sustainability within that affects the wool industry, we started this over 24 years ago. We employ on-farm specialists, we add value to our clients, and we treat our exporters and the people further down the stream as our clients as well. It's not just about one transaction. Now move into livestock. 4 years ago, strategic play brought on by the consolidation of the rural service industry. Very similar to wool, very similar. Sale yards, private sales, online, breeding and stud stock. All of our services to all of our clients are completely integrated. We touch the sale at various points along the chain. Very quickly on real estate, because it's not very big at this stage, but it's only 2 years old. It's a fledgling part of our business, but it's growing substantially. We've been in a position, if we can grow, it's a multi-service business. So if you're talking to a grower and you have his confidence, you'll not only be able to sell his wool and sell his livestock, but sell his real estate as well. This is what sets us apart from the competition, and I call it innovation with impact. And it's really around ESG. We started in wool 24 years ago, long-term sustainable contracts. The investment in New Zealand Merino lends us to the retailers that actually use the fibre to fashion. Why NZM? They are just the best at what they do, and we can add value to what they do in parts of Italy. It is the world's leading ethical producer of wool. They're linked to 96 different brands, the biggest in the world. And when we add ones from AWN that we have as well, we cover the entire spectrum that uses all quality of wool from carpets through to the finest Italian suiting. We like to innovate. Our tech innovation, we actually focus on putting capital away to make sure that we can actually take things into the next century. We have a proprietary trading margin platform which we've developed ourselves. We've got web platforms for all of our staff and clients, and all our systems are cloud-based with 2FA already. We continued investment in cybersecurity, and the industry had an attack here recently. AWN was completely protected. We were in the right spot. We never lay down in this area. It's an area that we want to be involved in, and it was interesting to hear others talk about digital transformation. The effect of the digital transformation on agriculture is real, and it will have a massive effect on it over the next few years, and we want to be part of it. So what does our next 12 months look like? Organic growth, driving expansion, the integration of our acquisitions for economies of scale, expanding footprint and scale through the pipeline of acquisitions that we have, and increasing market share across all of our revenue streams. And it's not any harder than that. It's a very simple model that relies on very little capital. And if you've got the right people around you, it can work. So that's a snapshot of who we are. We're a dedicated rural services organisation with roots across Australia, and our aim is to add value right the way through the chain. And Paul, I think that's it.
That's fantastic, John. Just one quick question. We haven't rehearsed this, so you might not feel comfortable talking about it, but John and the team's commitment to young people goes way and beyond what you would believe in this room. And one young person that John's helped is in another totally different sphere to rural services. It's in the tennis sphere, if you're able to talk about that, because it just shows the culture inside John and inside AWN.
Okay, yes, he's caught me by surprise. So in my misspent youth, I was a professional tennis player, and I have been a very fortunate person in life, and I've sponsored about 9 of the current tennis players that have been playing tennis. And unfortunately, I was in charge of media training for Nick Kyrgios, so that's how much of a failure I am. Molly Messer and I can tell you a very long story about that. But I've sponsored several young tennis players across Australia, and I continue to do so. I had a meeting with one on the weekend that I'll probably do something with. Very passionate about it. Why you must put back into the community. What I've had great things out of tennis, the people I've met, the places I've travelled, what I've done, I wouldn't swap for the world. And being able to bring that back into and basically mentor young tennis players who can basically operate within the confines of a tennis court, and most of them can't even make toast, let alone. And I also work very heavily with them at the end of their career when they're transitioning out from being a tennis player to operating in the real world, because most of them can't. You know, I have a good friend that's in Paris right at the moment playing in the French Open. He's been to Paris 34 times and he's never seen the Eiffel Tower. You know, so you know it's about transitioning them out into what the world looks like when they stop playing tennis. Very important.
100%, 100%. And we didn't get to questions, Mark. He's obviously on his 11th album. You're going to be a rock and roll sensation at some stage. And Kelly, we haven't had that chat yet, but I'm sure there's something in behind you that we'll get to. Any questions from the floor? We've got a couple of minutes. Tim.
Just a quick one on New Zealand Merino. You got your 10%. Is the scope to grow that? And how much does the 10% actually give you in practical leverage to make joint decisions?
Well, we have 10.1%, and basically there's some reasons why we took 10.1%. We do have the opportunity to grow our shareholding there. John Maher has been appointed to the board of New Zealand Merino, so we will be looking to integrate the services as much as we can, with them leveraging off what we've done and us leveraging off what they've done. New Zealand Merino have fantastic long-term contracts with people like the VF Corporation, who basically control the outdoor space in clothing. So if we can put what New Zealand Merino do and what AWN do together, we have a great opportunity to take more wool down the track.
All right, well, we might start the panel straight away.